I was sitting in my living room on a Tuesday morning waiting for my daughter Melissa to pick me up for my cardiology appointment when she called 20 minutes late and said in a tight, irritated voice, "Mom, I can't take you today. You're going to have to reschedule." Before I could even ask why, before I could remind her that this was my third appointment with the cardiologist to monitor the irregular heartbeat my doctor was concerned about, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Honestly, I'm tired of being seen at the hospital with you. People look at us and see me pushing around an old woman in a wheelchair, and it's embarrassing. It makes me look like I'm old, too, and I can't deal with that right now." She hung up before I could respond, and I sat there in the dress I'd carefully chosen, with my purse in my lap and my medical papers organized in a folder, realizing that my own daughter was ashamed of me, ashamed of my age, my walker, my need for help, and that this wasn't just about one missed appointment. Something much darker was happening. My name is Ann Williams, and I'm 72 years old. I live in a small brick house on Magnolia Street in Charleston, South Carolina, the house where my late husband Thomas and I raised our 2 children over 43 years of marriage. Thomas died 7 years ago from a stroke that took him suddenly one Sunday morning. He was a mechanic, a man who could fix anything with his hands, and who loved me through every stage of life, young and strong, middle-aged and tired, and finally older and slower. "Annie," he used to say, "we're going to grow old together, and when we can't do things for ourselves anymore, we'll help each other. That's what marriage is. That's what love is." We did grow old together, and then he was gone, and I was alone, navigating aging without the partner who'd promised to navigate it with me. I have 2 children. My son Marcus lives in Atlanta with his wife and 3 children. He visits when he can, calls every week, and has always been loving and supportive. My daughter Melissa is 37 years old. She lives here in Charleston, about 20 minutes from me. She's divorced, works in marketing, and has a teenage daughter named Sophie, who I adore. For years, Melissa and I had a good relationship. She'd visit weekly, bring Sophie over for Sunday dinners, call to check on me. When I started having health problems about 18 months ago, she'd been the one to insist on taking me to appointments. "Mom, you can't drive yourself to the cardiologist. What if something happens? I'll take you. That's what daughters do." I'd been grateful. My heart had developed an irregular rhythm that concerned my doctor. I needed monitoring, tests, occasional procedures. Having Melissa's help had felt like a blessing. But about 3 months ago, something changed. It started with small comments. "Mom, do you really need to bring that walker to the doctor? Can't you just use my arm?" "Mom, maybe you should stay in the car while I run into the pharmacy. It takes you so long to get in and out." Then the comments got sharper. "Mom, could you maybe try to walk faster? People are staring." "Mom, why do you dress like that? You look so old." I tried to laugh it off, tried to understand. Melissa was stressed with work, with raising Sophie alone, with her own struggles. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But then the cancellation started. 2 weeks ago, she'd canceled my appointment with the cardiologist the morning of, saying she had a work emergency. I'd had to reschedule, pushing it back 2 weeks. Last week, she'd promised to take me to get blood work done, then called an hour before saying she forgot and had made other plans. And now today, this 3rd cancellation in a month, but with words that cut deeper than any before. It's embarrassing. It makes me look like I'm old, too. I sat in my living room with tears running down my face, feeling a shame I'd never felt before. Shame for needing a walker. Shame for being 72. Shame for requiring help. Shame for being my daughter's burden. If you've ever been made to feel that your age, your physical limitations, your very existence is an embarrassment to the people who should love you most, you know the particular pain I felt in that moment. It's not just hurt, it's a deep, cutting humiliation that makes you want to disappear. I called the cardiologist's office and rescheduled for the 4th time. The receptionist's voice held barely concealed frustration. "Mrs. Williams, we really need you to keep your appointments. The doctor is concerned about your condition." "I know. I'm sorry. My daughter couldn't take me. Is there anyone else who can bring you? A friend? A neighbor? We have a patient transport service we can recommend if you need it." The suggestion felt like another humiliation, but I took down the number. After I hung up, I sat thinking about the past 3 months, about all the small signs I'd ignored or excused. Melissa had stopped inviting me to Sophie's school events. When I'd asked about Sophie's spring concert, Melissa had said, "It's really just for parents, Mom. You'd be bored." But I'd always gone to Sophie's events before. I'd been there for every concert, every play, every awards ceremony since she was in kindergarten. Melissa had also stopped bringing Sophie to visit me. When I'd ask when I could see my granddaughter, Melissa would say, "She's so busy with school and friends." You know how teenagers are. But Sophie used to love visiting me. We'd bake cookies together, work on puzzles, talk about books. Had that really changed? Or had Melissa stopped allowing it? And there were the photos. Melissa was very active on social media, constantly posting pictures of her life, her friends, her activities, but she'd stopped posting any pictures that included me. I remembered a moment about 2 months ago. We'd gone to lunch, one of the last times Melissa had taken me anywhere, and I'd suggested we take a photo together. Melissa had made a face. "Mom, not right now. The lighting's bad." But later, I'd seen her post multiple photos from that same restaurant, all carefully angled and filtered, showing her with her friends, her coworkers, everyone but me. I'd been erased from her public life. I needed to understand what was happening, so I did something I'd never done before. I called Sophie directly. "Grandma," she sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. "I miss you." "I miss you too, sweetheart. How are you?" "I'm good, busy with school and stuff. How are you?" "I'm okay. Sophie, can I ask you something? Has your mom said anything about why you haven't been visiting me lately?" There was a pause. She said you were really sick and needed to rest. That it was better as we didn't bother you for a while." I felt a chill. "I'm not that sick, honey. I'd love to see you anytime." "Really? Because Mom made it sound like you were really fragile and that we needed to give you space." "Sophie, I have some heart issues that need monitoring, but I'm not fragile. I'm certainly not too fragile to see my granddaughter." Another pause. "Grandma, can I tell you something? But you can't tell Mom I said it." "Of course, sweetheart." "I heard Mom on the phone with her friend Tanya last week. She was talking about you. She said she was embarrassed to be seen with you in public because it made her look old. She said people at her work had been asking if that was her mother at the hospital and it was aging her reputation or something." The words hit me like a physical blow. Sophie had heard her mother say these things. My granddaughter knew that Melissa was ashamed of me. "Grandma, are you still there?" "I'm here, baby. Thank you for telling me." "Are you mad at Mom?" "I'm processing. But Sophie, I want you to know something. There's nothing wrong with getting old. Everyone does it if they're lucky enough to live a long life. And there's certainly nothing wrong with helping your parents when they need it. That's what family does." "I know, Grandma. I want to visit you. Can I come over this weekend?" "I'd love that. But check with your mother first, okay?" After I hung up, I sat with this new information. Melissa wasn't just struggling with my age. She was actively ashamed of it, ashamed of being associated with an elderly mother, worried that being seen with me would make people perceive her as older. And she'd been lying to Sophie about my health to justify keeping us apart. I needed to understand why this was happening now. What had changed 3 months ago that had triggered this shift? So I called my friend Miss Geneva, who always seemed to know the neighborhood gossip. "Geneva, have you heard anything about Melissa lately? Anything unusual?" Miss Geneva hesitated. "Anne, I don't like to spread gossip." "Please, I need to know." "Well, I heard from Dorothy, who heard from her niece, who works at the marketing firm. Melissa's been dating someone. A younger man, apparently. Works in finance, very image conscious. Dorothy's niece said he's been pressuring people at work to maintain a certain youthful brand." A younger man, image conscious. Suddenly, it all made sense. Melissa had a new boyfriend who valued youth and image, and having an elderly mother didn't fit that image. So she'd started hiding me, erasing me from her life, making excuses to avoid being seen with me in public. I felt sick. I also felt angry, angrier than I'd been in a long time. I thought about Thomas. I thought about a conversation we'd had years ago when the children were teenagers and Melissa had been embarrassed to be seen with us at the mall. "It's just a phase," Thomas had said. "Teenagers get embarrassed by their parents. She'll grow out of it." "What if she doesn't?" I'd asked. "Then we'll have failed to teach her what really matters, that love isn't conditional on appearance or convenience, that family shows up for family, even when it's hard." Thomas had been right about the teenage phase. Melissa had grown out of it, but apparently the lesson hadn't stuck, because now as an adult, she was embarrassed again. And this time it wasn't a phase. It was a choice. I needed to confront her, but I also needed to protect myself. I needed to understand the full scope of what was happening before I decided what to do, so I called Marcus in Atlanta. When I told him everything, the canceled appointments, the comments about my appearance, Melissa's shame, the new boyfriend, the lies to Sophie, he was furious. "Mama, that's elder abuse, emotional abuse, medical neglect. Melissa is putting your health at risk because she's embarrassed?" "I don't know if it's abuse exactly." "It is. You have a heart condition that needs monitoring. She's your primary caregiver. You've been depending on her for transportation to critical medical appointments, and she's canceling them because of her own vanity? That's neglect, Mama. What should I do?" "First, you stop depending on her for anything. Get that patient transport service, ask friends, take taxis, whatever you need to do, but don't put your health in her hands anymore." "Okay." "Second, you confront her. You tell her exactly how her behavior is affecting you, and you set clear boundaries. And if she doesn't change, then you walk away, Mama. You have Marcus and Sophie who love you. You have friends. You don't need to keep someone in your life who treats you like an embarrassment." After I hung up with Marcus, I sat thinking about what boundaries I needed to set. But first, I needed to understand something. I needed to see for myself how deep Melissa's shame went. So I did something I'd never done before. I looked at Melissa's social media accounts. What I found broke my heart. Post after post of Melissa with her friends, at restaurants, at parties, at work events. Carefully curated photos showing her looking young, vibrant, successful. But I'd been cropped out of group photos I knew I'd been in. I remembered the birthday dinner Melissa had thrown for Sophie 2 months ago. I'd been there, had been in several group photos. But in the versions Melissa had posted, I was nowhere to be seen, cropped out or carefully excluded from the frame. There were also posts about her new boyfriend, Derek, a man in his early 30s, handsome, well-dressed, always photographed at trendy places. And in the comments on these posts, I saw something that made my stomach turn. One of Melissa's friends had commented, "You look so young and amazing. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." Melissa had responded, "Thanks, finally focusing on self-care and surrounding myself with positive, youthful energy. Life is too short to let yourself go." Let yourself go. As if aging was a choice. As if I had let myself go by getting older, by developing health problems, by needing a walker. Another comment thread caught my eye. Someone had asked, "How's your mom doing? I haven't seen her in your posts lately." Melissa's response, "She's fine, just needs her space right now." You know how it is with elderly parents. They get set in their ways and prefer to keep to themselves. The lie was so casual, so smooth. Melissa was rewriting our relationship for her social media audience, painting me as a reclusive old woman who preferred isolation rather than a mother who'd been systematically excluded and erased. I sat staring at my phone screen, feeling the weight of this betrayal. My daughter was ashamed of me, so ashamed that she was lying about me, hiding me, pretending I barely existed. And she was doing it all to maintain an image for a boyfriend and a social media following. I thought about a moment when Melissa was 7 years old. She'd been learning about family trees in school and had come home excited to tell me all about our family history. Mama, tell me about Grandma and Grandpa. Tell me about when you were young. Tell me everything. We'd spent hours looking through photo albums, talking about my parents, Thomas's parents, all the people who'd come before us. Melissa had been fascinated, proud of where she came from. I'm going to tell my kids all these stories someday, she'd said, so they know where they came from, so they know their grandma and their great-grandparents. That little girl had valued family history, had been proud of her heritage. When had she become someone who was ashamed of the very person who'd raised her? The next day, I called Melissa and asked her to come over. I told her I needed to talk to her about something important. She arrived an hour late, looking irritated and checking her phone constantly. Mom, I don't have a lot of time. Derek and I have dinner reservations. Sit down, Melissa. This won't take long. She sat on the edge of the couch, still checking her phone. I pulled out a folder where I'd organized everything, the canceled appointment confirmations, screenshots of her social media posts with me cropped out, notes about the comments she'd made. Melissa, I want to talk to you about what's been happening over the past 3 months. What do you mean? You've canceled 3 of my cardiology appointments. You've stopped taking me to get blood work. You've been making comments about my appearance and my walker. And you told Sophie I was too sick to see her when that's not true. Melissa's face flushed. I've been busy, Mom. I have a life. This isn't about being busy. This is about you being ashamed of me. What? That's ridiculous. You told me yourself, just yesterday. You said being seen with me at the hospital was embarrassing, that it made you look old. Melissa stood up abruptly. I was stressed. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? She didn't answer. Melissa, I found the photos, the ones where you cropped me out. I read your social media posts where you lied about me preferring to be alone. I talked to Sophie and learned you've been lying to her about my health to justify keeping us apart. You talked to Sophie? You had no right. She's my granddaughter. I have every right, and she has the right to see me, which you've been preventing. Melissa's face went from red to white. This is about Derek, isn't it? You don't approve? This has nothing to do with Derek. This is about you being so worried about appearing young that you're willing to erase your own mother from your life. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Derek's world is all about youth and image and success. People judge women my age so harshly. If they think I'm old enough to have an elderly mother, they see me as old. It affects my career, my relationship, everything. So you decided to hide me, to lie about me, to risk my health by canceling medical appointments? I wasn't risking your health. Those appointments weren't that important. I have an irregular heartbeat that could lead to stroke. Every appointment is important. The doctor has been trying to find the right medication, trying to monitor my condition, and you've been preventing that because you're embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed of you. I'm trying to maintain a certain image, and having an elderly mother doesn't fit that image right now. The honesty of it was almost worse than the lies. So when will I fit your image again, Melissa? When? Or am I supposed to just disappear from your life until it's convenient for you to have a mother again? That's not what I'm saying. That's exactly what you're saying. You want me to exist in the shadows, to stay hidden, to make myself smaller and less visible so you can pretend to be younger than you are. Melissa grabbed her purse. I don't have to listen to this. You're being dramatic and manipulative. Manipulative? I'm stating facts. You canceled my medical appointments. You lied to your daughter. You cropped me out of photos. Because I needed some space. Because I needed to focus on my own life without constantly being reminded that I'm getting older. Everyone gets older, Melissa. That's life. And someday you'll be 72 and you'll need help. And I hope to God your daughter treats you better than you're treating me. She left, slamming the door behind her. I sat in my living room shaking, feeling like I'd just lost my daughter. But I also felt something else, a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Melissa had made her choice. She'd chosen image over family, appearances over love, a boyfriend and a social media following over her own mother. And I needed to accept that and protect myself accordingly. Over the next few weeks, I made changes. I signed up for the patient transport service for my medical appointments. I started taking taxis when I needed to go places. I asked Miss Geneva and Dorothy if they'd be willing to help with occasional errands, and they both said yes enthusiastically. I also reached out to Sophie directly with Melissa's permission, reluctantly given. Sophie started visiting me every other weekend. We'd bake together, talk about school, work on projects. She never made me feel old or burdensome. She just made me feel loved. Marcus called every few days to check on me. He also called Melissa and confronted her about her behavior, but she was defensive and unrepentant. "She's making this into a bigger deal than it is," Melissa told him. "I just needed some space, and she's acting like I committed a crime." "You neglected her medical care because you were embarrassed," Marcus shot back. "That's not needing space, that's abuse." Melissa hung up on him. I also started going to a support group at my church for older adults dealing with difficult family relationships. I was surprised to find how many people had similar stories. Adult children who were ashamed of their aging parents, who hid them from social circles, who made excuses to avoid being seen with them in public. One woman, Ruth, told a story that made me cry. Her daughter had uninvited her from her wedding because the daughter's fiancé thought having old people in the photos would make the wedding look less elegant. "She didn't want me at her wedding," Ruth said through tears, "my own daughter, because I'd ruined the aesthetic." Another woman, Margaret, said her son had asked her to dress younger and do something about your gray hair before family photos because he didn't want people to know he had an elderly mother. These stories were heartbreaking, but they also made me feel less alone, and they made me realize that what Melissa was doing wasn't just a personal failing, it was part of a larger cultural problem. A society that values youth so intensely that aging becomes shameful, that treats elderly people as embarrassments rather than as human beings deserving of dignity and respect. But what I discovered next showed me that Melissa's shame had even darker consequences than I'd realized. I went to my rescheduled cardiology appointment using the patient transport service. The cardiologist, Dr. Patterson, looked concerned when he reviewed my file. "Mrs. Williams, you've missed 3 appointments in the past 2 months. That's not like you. Is everything okay?" "I've had transportation issues, but I'm here now." He ran his tests and reviewed the results, his frown deepening. "Mrs. Williams, your irregular heartbeat has worsened. We needed to catch this earlier. If you'd kept your appointments, we could have adjusted your medication weeks ago. As it is, you're now at increased risk for stroke." The words hit me like ice water. How much increased risk? "Significant. I'm going to change your medication immediately, and I need to see you back here in 1 week. Not 2 weeks, not a month, 1 week. This is serious." I left the appointment shaken. Melissa's vanity, her embarrassment, her canceled appointments, they hadn't just hurt my feelings, they'd put my life at risk. When I got home, I called Marcus and told him what the doctor had said. "That's it," Marcus said, his voice tight with fury. "I'm calling Melissa right now. She needs to understand what she's done." "Marcus, I don't think it will help." "I don't care. She needs to hear this." An hour later, Marcus called me back. I talked to her. I told her what the doctor said. You know what she said? "Well, Mom could have taken a taxi to her appointments if it was so important. She's still not taking responsibility." I felt tired, so tired. What do I do, Marcus? "You protect yourself, Mama. You keep going to your appointments. You keep taking care of your health. And you accept that Melissa might not change. She might stay exactly as she is, shallow and image-obsessed and unable to see past her own vanity. She's my daughter." "I know. But that doesn't mean you have to keep her in your life if she's hurting you." I thought about that for a long time. Did I have the strength to walk away from my own daughter? But then I thought about Thomas, about his voice saying, "Family shows up. That's what love is." Melissa wasn't showing up. She was actively pulling away, actively hiding me, actively putting my health at risk. That wasn't family. That wasn't love. 2 weeks later, Melissa called. Her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. "Mom, can I come over? I need to talk to you." "Okay." She arrived looking tired. Her polished appearance was slightly disheveled, and I noticed she'd been crying. "Derek broke up with me," she said as soon as she sat down. I waited. He said I was getting too old for him, that he wanted someone younger, someone without baggage. He met someone at his gym, a 26-year-old personal trainer. The irony was almost painful. "I'm sorry, honey." "Are you? I wouldn't blame you if you weren't. I've been terrible to you." "Yes, you have." She looked surprised at my bluntness. "I thought you'd try to make me feel better." "Why would I do that? You treated me terribly because you were worried about appearing old, and now the man you did that for has left you for someone younger. I can feel sorry that you're hurting while also acknowledging that you brought this on yourself." Melissa started crying. I know I did. "And I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry I canceled your appointments. I'm sorry I was ashamed of you. I'm sorry I lied to Sophie. I'm sorry for all of it." "Why are you sorry now? Because Derek left you? Or because you genuinely understand what you did wrong?" She was quiet for a long time. "Honestly, both. Derek leaving made me realize how stupid I was, how I threw away what actually mattered, my family, my relationship with you, for someone who didn't even value me. But also, Marcus told me what the doctor said about your heart getting worse because of the missed appointments, that you're at increased risk for stroke." She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Mom, I could have caused you to have a stroke. I could have killed you, all because I was worried about looking old." "Yes, you could have. How can you ever forgive me?" "I don't know if I can, Melissa. Not right now. You hurt me deeply. You made me feel ashamed of my age, of needing help, of existing. You put my health at risk. You lied to your daughter. And you did all of it for a man who didn't even respect you enough to stay. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I'm asking for a chance to make it right, however long that takes." I looked at my daughter and saw genuine remorse for the first time in months. But I also remembered all the times she'd seemed sorry before, only to repeat the same behaviors. "Melissa, if you want to make this right, it's going to take consistent action over a long period of time. It's going to take therapy to understand why you value image so much that you'd sacrifice your own mother for it. It's going to take showing up, actually showing up, to help me with appointments and errands. And it's going to take accepting that our relationship is forever changed. I will never fully trust you the way I did before. I understand. What do you need from me right now? I need you to go to therapy. I need you to be honest with Sophie about what you did and why it was wrong. And I need you to start proving through actions, not words, that you've changed." "Okay, I'll do all of that. We'll see." Over the next several months, Melissa did start making changes. She started seeing a therapist who specialized in aging anxiety and image issues. She had honest conversations with Sophie about her behavior and why it was wrong. She also started showing up. She took me to my cardiology appointments, every single one without complaint. She took me grocery shopping. She helped with errands. And she stopped posting carefully curated photos on social media. Instead, she started posting real photos, including ones with me, walker and all, with captions like, "Grateful for my mom and the time we have together." The comments on these posts were revealing. Some of her friends praised her, others unfollowed her. And I realized that she was facing a choice: the shallow friendships based on image or real relationships based on authenticity. She was choosing authenticity, finally. But our relationship was different now. I was more guarded, more careful. I didn't depend on her the way I had before. I kept my patient transport service. I maintained my other support systems because I'd learned that I couldn't put all my trust in someone who'd proven they'd abandon me when it was convenient. One Sunday afternoon, about 6 months after Derek had left her, Melissa and I were sitting on my porch drinking iced tea. Sophie was inside doing homework. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think you'll ever forgive me, really forgive me? I thought about it carefully. I think forgiveness is a process. I'm working on it. But Melissa, what you did changed how I see you. You were willing to sacrifice my health and well-being for appearance. That's not something I can just forget. I know, I hate who I was, who I became. Then don't be that person anymore. Every day, choose to be better. Choose authenticity over image. Choose love over vanity. That's how you make amends, not through apologies, but through becoming someone different. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm trying. I know you are, and I appreciate that. But Melissa, I need you to understand something. I'm 72 years old. I'm going to keep getting older. I'm going to need more help, not less. I'm going to slow down, maybe need more medical interventions. If you can't handle that, if my aging is going to embarrass you again, then we need to establish different boundaries now. It won't, I promise. I've learned my lesson. Lessons aren't learned in 6 months. They're learned over years. Time will tell if you've really changed. Now, if you're listening to this story, if you're an older parent whose adult child has shown shame about your age, has hidden you from their social circles, has canceled medical appointments, or avoided being seen with you in public, I need you to hear this. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Getting older is not a moral failing. Needing help is not weakness. Using a walker or wheelchair is not embarrassing. It's a tool that helps you maintain independence. Your children should be proud to be seen with you. They should honor you, support you, show up for you, even when it's inconvenient, even when it doesn't fit their image, even when their friends or partners might judge them. If your child is ashamed of you, that's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on them. It reveals their values, their character, their priorities, and you don't have to accept it. Here's what you need to do if your child is treating you this way. First, recognize it as abuse, emotional abuse, medical neglect if they're preventing you from getting health care. This isn't just hurt feelings, it's a pattern of behavior that damages your well-being. Second, build other support systems. Don't depend solely on the child who's ashamed of you. Find patient transport services, ask friends, hire help if you can afford it, join support groups. Protect your health and independence through multiple channels. Third, confront them directly. Tell them how their behavior affects you. Show them evidence if you have it. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. Fourth, set clear boundaries. What behavior will you accept and what won't you? What consequences will there be if they continue to treat you poorly? And fifth, be prepared to walk away if necessary. You don't have to maintain a relationship with someone who treats you as an embarrassment, even if that person is your child. Your dignity matters. Your health matters. Your right to be treated with respect matters. Don't sacrifice those things to maintain a relationship with someone who doesn't value you. I set boundaries with Melissa. I stopped depending on her. I built other support systems. And I made it clear that our relationship would only continue if she genuinely changed. She has changed, or at least she's trying to. But our relationship will never be what it was. The trust is broken, and I've accepted that. I've also accepted that getting older is not shameful, that needing help is not weakness, that I deserve to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of my age or physical limitations. You deserve that too. Don't let anyone, not your children, not their partners, not society, make you feel ashamed for being older. You've lived a long life. You've survived challenges, raised families, contributed to your communities. You've earned respect, not shame. And children who can't see that, who value image over love, who hide their parents rather than honor them, those children need to change. Not you, them. Stand strong, set boundaries, protect your health, and demand the respect you deserve. Real family shows up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it doesn't fit their image, even when it requires sacrifice. If your child won't show up, find the people who will. They're out there. And know that somewhere in Charleston, there's a 72-year-old widow who refused to be hidden, who demanded respect, who protected her health and her dignity when her own daughter tried to erase her, who's still standing, still visible, still worthy of love and respect. You are too. Don't ever let anyone make you believe otherwise. Your age is not shameful. Your need for help is not burdensome. Your existence is not an embarrassment. You matter. You've always mattered, and you always will. Hold your head high. You've earned that right. But it also saved my financial security. It taught my son that actions have consequences. It protected other potential victims from him. And it taught my granddaughter that love and accountability can coexist. You can do the same. You can protect yourself. You can press charges. You can demand restitution. Even the people you love most can betray your trust, so you must protect your independence, your finances, and your dignity. Blind trust without boundaries can lead to devastating consequences. I learned that the hard way. But I also learned that you can survive betrayal. You can rebuild. You can stand up for yourself even when it costs you relationships. You can choose yourself. And that's not selfish. It's necessary. Your money is yours.